Dogs, Casey Porter, joined by Austin Brubaker, as I am on each and every Wednesday and Friday. Also going to be joined by Mike Solis, a residential catcher later, and he's going to talk all about YoshinobuYamamoto. He knows all about it. He has all the statistics, the pitch mix. We actually have video of Yamamoto pitching, a lot of it, quite a bit of it actually, and you're going to get to see his pitch mix. You're going to see Mike explaining his pitch mix, explaining all of his ERA, all of his, all of the accolades that he has to this point and all the reasons why he should be, one of the biggest targets for the Dodgers at this point. So good evening, Mike. Good evening to all of the Dodgers Daily Nation out there. This is the Friday night shows have been a whole lot of fun, Austin, as we bring you in.
Yeah, it's been a whole lot of fun. I love doing these lives and being able to talk a lot about Dodgers baseball. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here, Casey.
Okay, so tonight really is we're going to get to Mike, and we're going to talk about Yamamoto. Other than that, we hope to get a big crowd, and we hope to just kind of make this an open mic night, if you will, and make it a situation to where we let the lobby and we let all of the comments and the people out there determine where we go with this show. We're going to talk, obviously, the big part of this is trade talk. The big part of this is free agency. We're going to go over some potential packages, and we're also going to talk prospects as well, as we always do on Dodgers Dogs. So first of all, Austin, what do you think that the number one target should be for the Dodgers right now?
Yeah, that is an excellent question as we enter the week leading up to the winter meetings. The winter meetings should start on Sunday. It's the big winter event in the world of baseball where teams get to come together. A lot of action seems to happen during that week. So it begs the question, what should be the biggest target for the Dodgers during this course? We know that the biggest need for the Dodgers, at least in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of most Dodgers fans, would be the need for starting pitching. That seems to be the most pressing need, especially that front end starting pitcher, because that is where the season or where they had the most struggles from last year. And where you look at this roster, there's a lot of youth, there's a lot of promise, there's not a lot of sure answers. So getting that sure number one starting pitcher, I think, has to be at the top of your list. And then also looking at it with the opportunity to get the best player in baseball as well. That also has to be on the back of the mind. As we enter the winter meetings leading up to that, that seems to be on the minds of the Dodgers and on the minds of the Dodgers fans as well.
Yeah, Ohtani sets the table. Yeah, I mean, that could be, that certainly could be, but I mean, I think a lot of dominoes can fall without that. I think that because, and here's the reason why, that's not necessarily the domino for the Dodgers, is because he's not a number one pitcher. The domino for the Dodgers is a number one surefire ace pitcher. Beyond that, hey, Ohtani, obviously that's great to get, but, if you can secure Yoshinobu Yamamoto, you definitely do that before Ohtani signs anywhere. I think maybe, Ohtani can set the market for some other teams, but for the Dodgers, I think that's a completely independent decision for them because he does not scratch the number one itch for this club.
Yeah, he certainly doesn't feel, at least during this upcoming season, that number one starting pitching role, which you absolutely need to address if you're the Dodgers, thinking about adding at least one or two starting pitcher. Shohei Ohtani, just putting him, he's kind of in his own separate category. He's the unique player, the unique superstar for the Dodgers that does amazing offensively. And when he does get healthy, great pitching. He's a unique marketing talent. But with that, the most pressing need that the Dodgers right now, if you're just talking about need, has to be that starting pitching. And so they're going to have to address that, whether that is through free agency. We've talked about Yamamoto, and we will talk about him a little bit more tonight, whether that is through Blake Snell, whether that is through the trade market, which I think is probably fairly likely, or if you're looking to supplement that with, if you're looking to add multiple starting pitchers with some of those secondary options, some of that tier down from that. Certainly a lot of options, but the options seem to be starting to become a little bit more limited as we've seen some of the teams take advantage.
I wouldn't say limited. I would say defined.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I mean, certainly the options, there's not as many options as there were before with some of the guys signed. Perhaps the Dodgers weren't even interested in signing some of those guys. They had some interest in Aaron Nola. But with some of the other guys, they're starting to get a little bit more of a flavor of what's going to be out there. Dodgers are going to have to make a move at some point before all of these guys start to sign, though.
Yep. I don't think it's going to be Dylan Cease. I would be surprised if it's Blake Snell. That would surprise me, just because that doesn't fit. What the Dodgers. They're just worried about that regression. You're so good at those statistics, Austin, as far as trying to predict future performances. I think if you predict Blake Snell for the future, you're probably predicting a rather large overpay for him. So I think at this point, all signs shoot towards Yoshinobu Yamamoto and Shohei Ohtani. Now, I don't think that those two are as linked as some people think. I think Yamamoto is going to come to the Dodgers. I think Shohei Ohtani is either going to stay with the Angels or come to the Dodgers. I don't think he is going to want, I don't think he's going to want a market that he doesn't know. Ohtani is who I'm talking about. I think he's going to want to stay in a situation to where, he has more control than he would, say, in a larger city like a New York or a Philadelphia or whatever, where if he goes 0 for 4, he starts getting booed. That's not his style. So I think that Ohtani either stays with the Angels or he ends up with the Dodgers. I think Yamamoto I think the Dodgers are going to end up with him. Whether Ohtani stays with the Angels or not, I think the Dodgers are going to get Yamamoto.
Yeah, and that certainly would be incredibly exciting for a Dodgers fan, especially if they are able to land both of those superstar talents right there. You talk about Shohei Ohtani right now. It seems to be the rumors are coming down to maybe 4 teams, or at least 4 teams that are heavily in the mix right now, with the Dodgers, the Angels being in the mix, and then Toronto and the Cubs as well. I don't know, and I think this is the complicated part of Shohei Ohtani, is we don't necessarily know the mindset of where
Mike Salas joins now, better known as Doom Sal on Twitter, as you can see his hand.
We're kind of just guessing. I think it would make sense for him to go to the Dodgers, and certainly the Dodgers seem to be interested if all of the rumors are true. We'll just have to see what happens. With Yamamoto, though, he fills that need for that number 1 pitching role. He's a superstar talent in Japan, which I'm sure we'll go ahead and talk about. If the Dodgers are able to land both of these talents, certainly it's going to cost a lot of money to get both of these talents, but it would be an incredible offseason if they were able to achieve this accomplishment. This isn't acquiring players by trade. You don't have to get anybody. You don't have to get rid of anybody from the farm system with these moves.
You say that you have to DFA some people.
Yes, you will have to take care of some stuff with that. But with this, it would be acquiring a lot of really high-end talent, which is what the Dodgers need to do during this offseason.
I'm just telling you, though, man, getting rid of some of the prospect capital for the Dodgers is necessary. And I've said this a million different times.
Yeah.
Talking about guys like Michael Busch and these guys, they're getting ready to lose all their value because they're older, right? So it's either trade them or play them right now, or you're going to end up with absolutely nothing for them because they're going to be 27, 28 years old and have absolutely no value. So, I'm just getting rid of, like I said, I mean, taking guys that aren't going to be maybe starters for long periods of times in this system, send them away and get what you can for them right now. No doubt about that.
Yeah, and I don't think you're wrong with that in any sense, because we talked about it during last show. That is the necessity of what the Dodgers are going to have to do. So if you're looking to add a second starting pitcher, perhaps you don't look at the second tier. You don't look at the Giolito, the Seth Lugo, the Hyunjin Ryu. Instead, you look at the trade market as well with this, and then you're talking about having an A-level offseason for the Dodgers if they're able to get.
See, I'm not for the second level pitcher. Use your farm guys. The guy you're going to go get is not as good as the guys you have in your farm system, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we've certainly seen that play out for the Dodgers with some of the guys they brought in just not succeeding. You look last year with a guy like a Noah Syndergaard. Didn't happen to work out, and that prevented some of the younger guys from getting opportunities as well. So you could utilize some of the talent that you have on the 40-man roster that aren't going to get sufficient opportunities and kind of are just wasting their professional careers away in Oklahoma City to get some necessary star power, hopefully for that starting pitching, which needs a little bit of a boost, or if you want to use that for some other players as well. What you don't want is you don't want to necessarily have a surplus in the AAA that will never see the big leagues. You rather use
and then loses value as it's sitting there getting older. That's the problem. These guys aren't 20 and 21. They're 25 years old.
Yes. Yeah, they're getting older, and as they get older, some of their value starts to diminish. And so you have to take that into account right now. And you also have to build up the best roster that you can for the big leagues while taking into account the future as well. So with that, I think that is something that is going to be necessary for the Dodgers to do. If you guys in the comments section have any sort of ideas or things you want us to talk over, this is a little bit more of an open mic show, so we'd happy to kind of look at the comments and just hear some of your guys' thoughts, some of Dodgers Daily Nation's thoughts.
Yep. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to get to Mike. We're going to talk to Mike, and Mike is going to get in depth about Yoshinobu Yamamoto, exactly why he should be the number one target for the Dodgers. All of his accolades, his pitch mix, and everything. We're going to have video on Yamamoto too. So we're going to get to him. Let's get to that interview right now. Mike Salas joins now, better known as Doom Sal on Twitter, as you can see his handle below. And Mike, he is just absolutely the expert on all of the international prospects. Going to talk some Gavin Lux, a whole bunch of different things here. So, hey, Mike, thanks for coming on in.
Thanks for having me, Casey. Appreciate it.
Okay, man, let's start here. You of course, you wrote you were ahead of everybody, and I've got receipts for it. I put the receipt out there on Twitter yesterday about all of your articles about Yamamoto and some of the other international prospects. So you have been talking about these guys way before anybody else has. So dive into the international prospects for us.
So I got into the international stuff right after the All-Star break, and this may be like an unpopular way of getting into it, but I was watching a Trevor Bauer video on his adventures in Japan, and Yamamoto was on there, and Roque Sasaki was in there, and the way that he was talking about these pitchers, I'm like, let me take a look at these guys. You know, they sound pretty interesting, and that's how I really got into it. Was off of that. So I started digging into Yamamoto and some of his stats and what he was doing and how he was playing with the Oryx Buffaloes when he was playing. So, that's basically how I got into it.
We talked about it on a couple of shows ago, but dive into Yamamoto. He's the big name now. It looks like Dylan Cease might end up with the Braves, and obviously Ohtani. He can't pitch next year, so the Dodgers are still looking for that number one pitcher that everybody thinks the Dodgers need. Of course, Corbin Burns would take a big prospect haul. So would Glass now, so there's complications to everything else. I think probably the cleanest path for the Dodgers at this point for that number one type starter is Yamamoto.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've been saying this for a while now, is that Yamamoto should be the number one target for the Dodgers. He's a 25-year-old pitcher. Just in 2023 alone, his ERA was 1.21. He had a .92 whip. He had 16 wins for the season with 169 strikeouts over 1,000 innings pitched, and that's just for 2023. In his career, he has 5 All-Star selections. He has 2 no-hitters. He's won 3 Japanese consecutive Triple Crowns, which goes off of wins, ERA, and strikeouts, and that's through 2021 and 2023. He's also won 3, if I can pronounce this right, Sawarma Awards, and this is the equivalent of the Cy Young Award that we have in MLB. And he has 2 MVP titles in the MPB. He's also went on a streak of 42 scoreless innings. That's his longest streak in his career that he has. And then since 1950, when the MPB league started, there have been only 3 pitchers to maintain an ERA under 2 in their careers. One of them was a pitcher called Inao, and he had a 1.98 ERA. And the other pitcher, which people who watch the MLB will know, is a Padres pitcher by Yu Darvish, which is 1.99. And Yamamoto's ERA for the last, I think it's 6 years, has been 1.72. So if you notice, you haven't seen a name in there, and that is Shohei Ohtani. He doesn't have the velocity, but his pitches that he has are great. Yamamoto has a 4-seam fastball, he has a 2-seam fastball, a forkball, a curveball, a cutter, and a slider.
Wow.
And those are just in his pitch mix. His best pitch that he throws, which he throws about 30% of the time when he's pitching, is a splitter. And he throws that at 91 miles an hour.
So he has a splitter and a forkball?
Yes.
And he throws a splitter at over 90 miles an hour?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why I'm so high on Yamamoto, and why I think, in my opinion, that he's a better pitcher than Ohtani is.
So
he's younger.
Yeah.
He's also younger.
Yeah, that's the big value for him, is that you're probably going to get him in his prime of his career. I think that's the big selling point here.
Correct. And then I did read an article that Keith Law wrote a while back that stated that Yamamoto would be a number 1 starter for any MLB team. So that's why I always say he is a number 1 starter coming out of Japan.
So I guess, just the contrarian in me, just to play devil's advocate, how would Keith Law know, how would Mike Salas know that he should be a major league number 1 starter when you have not seen him compete against major leaguers at a consistent level? What gives you that assurance?
Not at a consistent level, but his performance in the world when they played the World League, his consistency and his performance was amazing. I watched a few games of him pitching against major league players, and he struck out some top name players that's there. Just his ERA that he's had over his career in the NLB. In the Japan League, and just the little bit of time that I saw him pitch. It's just a gut feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
That you would call it.
Get him all the time with the prospects, brother. Trust me.
Yeah. It's somebody who I'm very high on. The only thing that he's going to have to do is maybe to adjust to, the time zones, the speed of the game, the pitchers or the hitters that he's going to be facing on a more consistent basis, because the MLB hitters are quite a bit better than they are in the Japan League. So there is going to be some adjustments for him, but I don't think it's going to be as much of an adjustment.
So what kind of contract would get it done? And is he going to require Ohtani too?
I don't see having Ohtani being the reason why he wouldn't sign, because if the Dodgers do it right, they can say, look who we already have.
What kind of contract?
I'm going to go 6-7 years, $200 million, kind of like what everybody's saying. I'm not going to be surprised if it goes $225 or $250 with some extended years to it. And he would be the highest, paid pitcher coming out of the MPB if they offer him that contract.
Wow. That's a big leap for me, for a guy who's never pitched in the major leagues.
But I'm willing to make that leap. Just looking at his stats and what he has, the 3 consecutive Triple Crowns that he's won. The minor league system, what are the pitchers pitching in the minor league system? Everything that I see that's there, they're pitching 4 innings, 5 innings, 3 innings.
Matter of fact, the only pitcher for AAA Oklahoma City at all last year that went 7 innings, there was only one, and it only happened one time, and that was Landon Knack. Only one time did a starting pitcher, go 7 innings for AAA Oklahoma City last year. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you bring in a Yamamoto, who has pitched 2 no-hitters in his career, and goes almost 7, 8, 9 innings a game. So to me, that's proven himself.
Yep.
That's there. He's durable. He can last. 169 strikeouts, over 1,000 innings. What AAA pitcher can say that? That's there.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. Told you he knows everything you need to know about Yamamoto. That's not the entire interview. We also talked about Sasaki and some other guys. Going to talk to Mike on a consistent basis about all sorts of different stuff, as far as, international guys. Because, hey, we've talked a lot, Austin. I don't follow a lot of those guys. I'm so busy with the Dodgers players, the four affiliates, and then the LA Dodgers. You know more about all the contract stuff and the business side of it. Mike is wonderful on the international side of it, and just kind of finding those diamonds in the rough the Dodgers might want to come pick up. So I thought he did a wonderful job on that.
Oh, yeah, he certainly did. If you have any more questions that you have, I think he's down in the comments section right now. I think he'd be more than happy to answer it to the best of his abilities. Yeah, no, with as much baseball as we consume in America, with the Dodgers side, with me, with Great Lakes, being in depth with them, it's kind of hard to always pick up on what's happening international. So having somebody who's paying attention to that, has a little bit more of an expertise, far more than what we do, is amazing to have, and love to have him on Dodgers Daily.
Yeah, so he's already answering questions here. One of the questions was, has he ever had arm problems? Mike says no. Sasaki has had TJ already. And then another question was, how many days in between starts? I do believe they only throw once a week there. But if you look at the durability, when you look at the Dodgers minor league system, I'm going to say this again, and I said this in our interview with Mike. If you look at the Dodgers system, okay, in that system for the AAA Oklahoma City Dodgers, only one pitcher one time last year went 7 innings, starter. Isn't that amazing? Only one starter went 7 innings last year, and that was Landon Knack. So you're talking about a guy, that's what really sold me with some of the things that Mike was talking about with Yamamoto. You don't have all of the major league experience to compare to say, is he worth $250 million and a lengthy contract and that kind of thing. So you have to kind of look at projectables. One of the projectables is that he has been durable. When you look at that video that we just watched on him, I think another thing that really sticks out is the movement of his pitches. I would be curious to see how that plays in the Dodgers system. The Dodgers like the high-riding fastballs, the cutters, the changeups, that kind of thing. But having a splitter that is over 90 miles an hour, that's pretty devastating. So I think those are projectables that are pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's certainly exciting. And just adding a little bit of something different to the mix could be something that is extremely effective, and something that other teams just have to be concerned about. Having that for Yamamoto, I think, would be amazing to have. And you talked about it. That I'm under the same assumption that they only pitch once a week, which there's been a lot of pitchers that have come over to Japan and adapted to that. So you have to take that into account. You also have to take into account the Dodgers system and stuff too. What you talked about with pitchers, especially starting pitchers, not necessarily going a whole lot of length and stuff, is actually fairly common throughout the system. We've seen the Dodgers tend to slow play a lot of their starting pitchers, whether that's back to 2021 with Bobby Miller and Clayton Beeter in Great Lakes, whether that is through some of the other starting pitchers. They like to kind of take their time and slowly work through them. So that brings up the question with a Yamamoto. Would they consider, or is it likely that they would go to like a 6-man rotation if they bring in a Yamamoto? And this especially becomes a question because of the depth that the Dodgers have right now with younger right-handed starting pitchers. If you go to a 6-man rotation, you likely are going to have to need some depth. You're likely going to need to have guys out of the bullpen who provide some length. The Dodgers, if they decided to bring in Yamamoto and they want to go to a 6-man rotation, potentially could have that option because of the length that they have.
No doubt. I don't think they would do that as a rule. I think they would do that maybe for shorter periods of time and then kind of have a quasi 6-man rotation from the sense that, hey, you know, that allows Clayton Kershaw to say, hey, I need to skip a start, or whoever it may be, to where you can actually skip a start for each guy. And when kind of like whenever you have a fourth outfielder and you figure out a way to get that person in, say, 3 to 4 days a week, because maybe James Outman comes out one game, maybe Mookie Betts plays second base one game, maybe David Peralta. So you figure out a way to get that 6th starter, maybe not actually set it as a 6-man rotation, but you dot them here, you dot them there, and you come up with a 6-man rotation, and it's not necessarily just with 6 guys. You know, it could be a 6-man rotation with 8 guys, because you're dotting a guy here. Well, this guy might not be available the next time you need to dot in one of your 5 starters. Does that make sense? Did I explain that properly?
That makes complete sense, and I think that opens up the potential for opportunities for guys like an Emmett Sheehan, for guys like a Gavin Stone, who can provide some length, who might not necessarily, especially if the Dodgers go out and add a couple of starting pitchers, have a defined role in the rotation. But if you still tell them, hey, we're going to give you innings per week because we're going to need some innings, we're going to need to spread out these starters. It could be an inning, couple innings here, a couple of innings there. They might be able to figure out something that works, that provides enough rest for Yamamoto to make sure that he's healthy, and provides opportunities for some of these other guys who are incredibly talented, who have the ability to provide length, to get them in there as well.
That is Emmett Sheehan and Diego Cartaya. I'm going to play that again. I'm going to put the loop on that. We're going to get to some video on Emmett Sheehan, because we're talking about, you know, okay, so do you want to go get pitching, or do you want to rely on the guys who are already in your system? So right now, who would be in your rotation if you started tomorrow, Austin?
If we started tomorrow, well, this is assuming that Walker Buehler is back fully and healthy. So it would be Buehler, it'd be Miller, it would be Pepio up there as well. And then you're talking about maybe an Emmett Sheehan being in the mix as well. Maybe a Yarbrough. That's at least what they have projected on there. Kershaw isn't signed right now, so they would have to sign him. Plus, I don't believe he would be back until maybe midway through the summer, if not sometimes later into 2024, just because he had some sort of surgery. It's going to take some time for him to get back. So he will not be ready, I believe, for opening day. So right now you're talking about Buehler, Miller, Pepio, and then maybe Sheehan, Yarbrough, Stone would be in the mix. Then you're talking about some of the other guys in the lower levels of minors, the Hurt, the Knack, the Frasso. Those are the guys that they have available right now. And that is not without.
Okay, so say the rotation again. Go 1 through 5. Who would it be?
Yep, it would be probably Buehler, Miller, Pepio, and then 4 and 5 would be a little bit tricky. My guess it would be Sheehan, and it would be, depending on whether they go with veteran or rookie, it would be probably either Yarbrough or Stone would be my guess.
Okay. Where does Frasso come into this? Let's look at some video of Nick Frasso. Where does Frasso come in on this?
Yeah, so Frasso, he certainly is in the conversation. He can certainly earn his role, especially if the Dodgers decide to go with completely in-house into this mix. The thing that I have, or the one thing that I have for him, is just he hasn't had a ton of experience at the AAA level.
And he finished last year on the IL, of which that will not be a concern.
Yes. Yeah. So
I wanted to make sure we knew that.
Yes. Yeah. So he certainly is in the mix. If you're talking about Stone or Yarbrough, they certainly have more big league experience, more of the upper level experience. But I think with that 5th spot, again, this is talking about not signing anybody right now. It would be a heavy competition, with Frasso being right up there in the mix.
Okay, so you're looking at Buehler, Miller, Pepio. Who else did you say?
Emmett
Sheehan. Okay.
Yes.
And then until you either sign Kershaw or he gets back, then you're looking at, boy. If you don't go out and get somebody, you're looking at Frasso or Knack or
Gavin Stone,
Ryan
Yarbrough, or if you wanted to stretch out
something
Kyle
like that.
Hurt,
Yeah. So
again, you could do that.
So let's get a good conversation. Okay. Let's just say that, of course, the Dodgers are going to get, I would say, would you say 2 pitchers?
That would be my guess. Yes.
Let's say the Dodgers don't, though. Who would your rotation be? Who would you put it? Who would be your starters?
Tomorrow or
Yeah.
today? Let's assume that they get nobody.
Yes.
Okay, so it would be Buehler, Miller, Pepio, it would be Sheehan, and it would be, man, that becomes tough for that 5th spot. I would lean towards Stone right now.
See, I would lean towards Frasso, and I wouldn't put it a Frasso versus Stone thing. I just think because Stone was a closer in college.
Sure.
I think Stone has more of the ability to be a guy that can be a swingman. He can provide versatility, be a right-handed version of Ryan Yarbrough, So I think Stone provides a lot of versatility. So I think if you had a rotation of Buehler, Miller, Pepio, Sheehan, and Frasso, that's a lot of great stuff. Of course, there's not a whole lot of experience there, but it'd be damn exciting.
Yeah, it certainly would. And that makes a lot of sense, having Gavin be kind of in that swing, that piggyback, that long relief role in combination with a Ryan Yarbrough. Certainly interesting conversations. I'm sure Dodgers fans right now are hoping it doesn't come to that because they're hoping they get some sort of frontline starting pitcher. But these guys are incredibly talented as well. It's certainly important not to forget that.
So if you do go get one starting pitcher at the front end, let's say you go get Yamamoto, then what is your rotation?
Then your rotation would be eliminating that 5th guy. So it would be Yamamoto, Buehler, it would be Miller, it would be Pepio, and right now there would be some competition. Right now I would probably lean toward Emmett Sheehan, though.
So what do you do with Frasso? What do you do with Stone? What do you do with Knack? What do you do with these guys?
So for right at the beginning of the season, there might be limited opportunities for them. However, it is absolutely important to remember that the 5-man rotation that you start off the season with is not, or rarely ever is, the 5-man rotation that you end the season with. Mm-hmm. Starting pitching throughout the course of the season is there's a lot of variance with that. There's a lot of injuries that go on with that, which is essential that you have depth within your system for starting pitchers. So if you go into a season with a great starting 5, don't expect all of those guys to remain healthy throughout the season, especially with guys like Walker Buehler, who's coming back from major surgery, from a YoshinobuYamamoto who's coming over from Japan. With a lot of these guys, you need to have sustained depth. These guys, although there might not be an initial vision for an opportunity right away, will get innings over the course of the season, and there will be roles provided for them.
Nick Frasso, 25 years old. Landon Knack, 26 years old. Kyle Hurt, 25 years old. Gavin Stone, let me pull him up. Gavin Stone. Give me just a second here. Gavin Stone, 25 years old. See, so I mean, these guys, it's go time. I mean, it's an interesting deal that I don't know. The Dodgers, I'll just say this: they do an elite job of finding players. They do an elite job of developing players, and they just don't do a good job of paying the farm system off at the major league level. They get them right up there to the brink, and then all of a sudden, it just seems like they feel like they need to go get a mid-tier veteran and push back guys until they're 25 years old and still don't have major league experience. To me, this is the worst case scenario you can be in, is to have a whole slew of 25-year-olds with no major league experience.
Yeah, I think that is certainly an absolutely valid complaint with the Dodgers system, how they have it set up right now because of the bar of excellence that they have. They seem to value, per essence, the floor of a lot of the Major League Baseball players that they seem to provide, whether you think that is valid or not. And what that does is because they seem to value a lot of the veteran presence, that limits and severely limits some of the opportunities that the guys that are incredibly talented in the system have to be able to go up to the big leagues.
How is it
the,
a good? I'm just saying, how is it a good philosophy to have a whole bunch of 25-year-olds that don't have major league experience? How is that beneficial for the Dodgers? How does that benefit them?
It's not beneficial for the players. One of the things that
How is it beneficial for the Dodgers themselves, though? Because beyond this year, a year from now, they don't even have any trade value because they're older.
Yeah, and that certainly is the case. Part of it, when looking at it from an organizational standpoint, and I addressed this a little bit earlier with the pitching, there does need to be some depth that you have within your system, which is able to come up to the big leagues through the course of 162 in case there is some sort of injury. So some of the guys at the upper levels of the farm system, whether you like it or not, have to be, the Dodgers envision them per se as some sort of depth pieces. I think they are a lot more talented and better, and they could get a lot better if they are actually getting experience in the big leagues. But you either have to have some of the guys at the upper level of the minors who are able to come up, or a bunch of guys that you signed to minor league deals who can come up through the course of the season when you deal with some sort of injuries. Gathering a whole course of a system and being able to fill the roster through the course of the season when you do deal with injuries is something that is an extremely difficult thing to do. And I think from the standpoint of what I would do, I would much rather prefer that you take advantage of a lot of these guys, take advantage of a lot of the upward trajectory, especially because you have some wiggle room, because you are the Dodgers, because you can consistently win during the regular season. Might as well develop these guys in the course of the big league season, still with the understanding that you probably are going to win quite a lot of games and these guys are going to get better. That doesn't always seem to be the philosophy that has to do with the Dodgers, because they seem to value some of the veteran experience. They hope that is going to pay off. That doesn't always pay off, though. It's an incredibly tricky balance between gathering depth and also making sure that there's opportunities for these the prospects that you have.
Ryan right here, by the way. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's very tough, and I don't always have the answers for necessarily why the Dodgers do the things that they do. I know
it's not working. It's not working at all. It's working. It's working to win. Your division against teams. Arizona got hot, but I mean, I don't think the Dodgers would have won the division if they hadn't gone on a historic fall. I mean, it would have been close, It's working to win your division, but it's not working to win playoff games.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see what the value is of having a whole slew. River Ryan, who you're seeing right here, guess how old he is?
He's
25.
That's a good question. Yeah.
He's 25, and he's not even on the 40-man roster yet, right? I mean, so... I mean, what is the strategy here, I guess, is what I'm asking. How is it a strategy to make all of your great prospects 25 and 26, and you still haven't put them in the major leagues yet, to where Dodgers fans are still wanting to not use any of them still? I mean, Dodgers fans don't want to use any of these guys this year. They want to go out and they want to get 5 veteran pitchers, and they want to say to hell with Frasso, to hell with Knack, to hell with River Ryan, to hell with Gavin Stone. Let's go get 5 veteran starters and leave these 25-year-olds to pitch in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, and that's certainly
so they can have no value by the time you get rid. I mean, so do this when they're 23, not when they're 25. That's kind of my point. I just don't get it. It does not make any sense to me to have Michael Busch, to have all these guys that are aging out. I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, and it's very tough to do, and I think it also comes from a standpoint of a knowledge-based bias that we might have. for a lot of the veteran players, and I think this comes from both fans and at times major league front offices, from the standpoint of your general baseball fan, they have a lot of good knowledge of what goes on around the sport, especially goes around the sport of Major League Baseball. Far more widely covered. You get to see a lot of these guys play your own team. You get to see a whole lot of coverage on the side of the major league guys. Whereas on the minor league side, you might get some coverage on some of the top prospects. You might hear about them, but a lot of baseball fans don't ever see what they are able to do or see the growth that they have. So I think that a lot of that comes from a bias of, I know these guys, meaning I understand what likely is the floor or ceiling of a lot of these guys. With a lot of the younger guys, man, getting up to the big leagues is incredibly hard, and being able to sustain success at the big leagues is always an unknown. So being able to get an established guy for an unknown, for a lot of casual baseball fans, or for a lot of fans that are in depth about Major League Baseball, seems to make sense for them. And I think this can be a bias that gets played out for a lot of Major League Baseball front offices when they're trying to predict future success. Sometimes they prefer to take the known, or what they perceive as the known from Major League side, over what can be at times the unknown from the minor league side, where we see all the talent, we see the success, don't necessarily always know how that will translate to the big league level. We think if you get more time, they could perhaps adapt to the big league level like they've adapted to the levels at the minor leagues. It's really tough to say right now, especially when organizations have to make decisions and they have to answer to all the fans, most of which know about Major League Baseball.
One win in the playoffs in the last 2 years. One.
Yeah.
It's not working. So you mentioned, okay, so players need time to adjust to the major leagues. So you bring a guy up when he's almost 27 years old, and by the time he actually adjusts to the major leagues, he's almost 30? That's the plan?
Yeah. I honestly, and this is part of the trouble, because I want to see a lot of these guys come up.
I mean, you do that when a guy's 21.
Yeah.
So he comes up, he struggles, and by the time he's 24 years old, he's a good major league pitcher, right? And now you have him for 3 or 4 years of control right in the middle of his prime. Not when he's 26.
Yeah,
I'm
not disagreeing you.
So River Ryan's 25,
all,
not on the 40-man roster. He's 26 by the time he gets on. You say he needs an adjustment period of, say, a couple of years. He's 28 years old by the time you get any kind of production out of him. How is that a good plan?
Yeah, it's very tough, and this is the difficulty that the Dodgers have with the bar of excellence set so high.
But the excellence isn't there. The Dodgers aren't winning anything. They're winning the NOS. So what? I mean, the Padres have been underachievers. The Giants sucked. The D-backs went on a one of the most historic drop-offs in the history of Major League Baseball that was completely out of the control of the Dodgers, okay? I mean, yes, great. They won the NL West, okay? We're the Dodgers. Let's win a World Series. So, the bar of excellence isn't there right now. It's not there. You've won one World Series in 2020 in a season to where it was cut short because of COVID. There were nobody in the stands and there were no home games. That's it. So when I hear this bar, I don't mean towards you, Austin.
Yeah.
I'm on one of my rants. The bar of excellence, what excellence? Excellence to me, when you're talking about the Dodgers, are world championships. Excellence to me is 1988. Kirk Gibson hitting a home run to win the World Series. Excellence to the Dodgers isn't losing 3 games in the postseason, only winning 1 game in the last 2 years, and literally not using any of your prospects or building any of your future. I mean, what's the plan? I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me, but I'm on a rant, so there you go.
Yeah. No, that was good. No, it certainly is. It's very tough to kind of understand all of the decisions that the Dodgers make, especially with this tendency to lean towards the veterans to lean towards the MLB known quantities. When we've seen that idea, or at least the ideas, some of that not play out, especially in the postseason. It's tough to win the postseason, but the Dodgers should be winning more than what they have done in the postseason. So the question is a philosophical question. What has been working isn't working. So is the philosophical change that you want to make to lean in towards the younger guys and be able to let them grow and develop?
At least build a future, have one or the other. If you're not winning, at least be building a future. The Dodgers are in a lose-lose right now. They're not building anything, and they're not winning. They're wasting their prospects, and they're not winning. It's a lose-lose.
So then that becomes a question. Do you lean into the prospects that you have? Do you lean into them? Or do you use the resources that they have before they kind of waste a lot of their career, before they get older at the AAA level, to trade them to acquire for that superstar talent, to acquire that starting pitching that you need? Right now, they seem to be kind of in the middle, which is leading them not to postseason success. They're kind of riding into we'll sign maybe. We'll get a couple of superstars and we'll have sustained success during the regular season, which I will point out is something that almost every single other team would desperately want. That is something that we shouldn't take for granted for the Dodgers. Obviously, that is not the goal. Obviously, that's not the expectation. But that is something that the Dodgers have been able to do. They've been able to have sustained success during the regular season. That has not translated over to the postseason. So the question is why? Is it because they haven't been able to bring up guys young enough and be able to create a younger generation of Dodgers? Or is it because they're not taking advantage of the great scouting, the great farm system that they have to get the superstar talent?
It's because they're not bringing them up fast enough. I mean, if the guy is major league ready at 22 years old, that guy will go. That's a prospect that will get you any, versus a guy that's 25 and is yet to pitch in the major leagues. Are you following what I'm saying? I mean, if he's 22 and he has major league experience, right? Okay, and he's throwing 100 miles an hour, and he already has however many major league innings that major league teams want. That guy is marketable. Okay, River Ryan here in about a year or two. After, so what's going to happen to River Ryan is it's going to take him forever to get on the 40. He's going to be 27 by the time he debuts. Then he's going to, have to have that adjust. So now you're looking at, how much value is a 27-and-a-half-year-old going to have at that point? Versus if you would have done it 3 or 4 years earlier and he was a 23-and-a-half-year guy with the exact same stuff, right? Okay, just as an example as far as how that goes. Okay, that guy is going to be way more valuable. Plus, you're going to know faster. So one or the other, either build your future, or win a World Series. The stuff in between, going and getting the guys that make you okay, just to say you go get a guy, that just doesn't cut it for me. Either use your farm system, the guys that have grown up in your elite system, or go get Shohei Ohtani. Nothing in between. Because your prospects are timing out, and you're not going to get the return on them like you should have.
Yeah, and I think you're not wrong with that in any sense of the form. I completely agree with you and with that, and I totally see everything that you're coming from. This comes straight from a philosophical difference that a lot of people have, or at least depending on what you have. Do you prefer to play the prospects, or do you prefer to use the prospects to get a lot of the
either way
MLB talent?
But we're not doing either.
Yes, and
by waiting until they're 27 to give them a major league experience, we're not doing either. That's kind of what I'm saying. And one of the comments is from one of our wonderful commenters, Craig Osterberg. Okay, put him in spring training and let him earn it. Okay, well, Michael Busch, guess what he hit in spring training last year? You want to know what Michael Busch hit in spring training?
What did he hit in spring training?
290. You want to know what his OPS was?
What was that?
937 in spring training. You want to know how many major league at-bats he got last year? Let me open this up. Last year he got an exact total of 72 at-bats. So he did earn it in spring training. Okay? What else could he have done? I mean, these guys have earned it time and time and time again. It has nothing to do with earning. It has to do with the Dodgers just not giving them opportunities. Period.
Yeah, and I think that is exactly right, and that is the very tough part and the very frustrating part of coming up through this system at times is you get the best people to coach you, you get the best people to train you, yet when your opportunity seems to come along, it doesn't always come along quick, and by the time you get that opportunity, you're getting older and older, whereas in other systems
Michael
that rely
Busch can play
more
three
heavily,
major league positions. That is incorrect. And I know I'm being a jerk right now, but I've seen Michael Busch, and I've talked to his coaches. Michael Busch can play 3 different major league positions. He can play third base better than Max Muncy right now. I would go on record with that. He can play second base, and he can play left field.
Yeah, and he certainly had a lot of success. I mean, we saw him win an award for what he did from the Dodgers at the AAA level this past season. And you're talking about it's not just good for AAA level, it's well above the bar of excellence for AAA. He certainly needs to get opportunities at the big leagues. And so that question becomes, you either have to play him or you have to trade him, because right now you can't just have him sit there and have him lose his value over the course of time as he continues to prove that he is a very good baseball player at AAA. Very frustrating for sure.
Yeah, I've lost my cool tonight, but from time to time, I don't understand the plan. We're talking about all the okay, and then go get like a LucasGiolito or go get whoever. Hey, I have no problem. Like I said, I have no problems if you want to go get a guy that he's obviously going to go to the front of the line. I mean, there's no doubt. But other than that, I mean, and I also wouldn't have a problem if these guys were 21 or 22 years old. I mean, are you following what I'm saying, Austin? You know, and that also comes from a sense of what the Dodgers plan as far as their development go. A lot of these guys, whether they're coming over from college or not, are coming over for 21, 22 years old, maybe 20. And so they're getting them. There is a course of development that they have to go through, and there are certain things that they have to work on in the minor league level. So that also has to be taken into account. It's not just throw them at the big leagues in the fire right away. There is a lot of things that these players are working on. There is a lot of things that they have to learn. And I think it's important for them to go through the coaches, to go for the pitchers, to go through the pitching coaches, go to Dave Anderson or everybody else in the Dodgers organization and pick up stuff from them to continue to refine their craft so they're ready at the big league level. I think the issue is we think that they're ready for the big league level before the Dodgers pull the trigger or seem to have opportunities for them to do so. That part certainly is frustrating. I think it's important to have that development, but it seems to be the development that they have right now seems to be taking quite a bit for a lot of these guys to at least have the opportunity to reach the big league level. Yeah. Michael Busch did not get an opportunity. The opportunities he's given were not a real opportunity at all. There is nobody who will ever be able to convince me that he was giving a proper opportunity. You can't just throw a guy into a major league lineup and say, hey, here's your chance. Here's 7 at-bats. If you don't get any hits, then you're going back down to Oklahoma City. Okay, here's 4 games. I mean, that's not an opportunity. That's not what baseball is. You saw in spring training, Michael Busch, as it went on, okay, struggled early on. Everybody's like, oh, he's not hit. Just wait, let him get comfortable. And then guess what he did in the last part of it? Matter of fact, I'll get it right here. Last part of spring training right here, okay, for Michael Busch, okay, he hit 321 in March in spring training. That's towards the latter part of spring training when major league pitchers are trying to refine their, get ready. So, I mean, okay, so his last couple of games, his last 3 games, he went 6 for 11, okay? His first 2 games, he went 0 for 3. He was 1 for 5. He was 1 for 6. He was 2 for 9. He was 2 for 11. He was 2 for, hold on a second. He was 2 for 12. He was 2 for 14. And then he ended up hitting 321 after he got comfortable. So, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And I'll move on because I didn't even mean to get on this topic, but I'm just confused as to what the strategy is. as disciplined as the Dodgers are and as big of a plan as they have, I just don't understand the point of not giving guys chances until they're past the age of 25 years old.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that.
Yeah, and it's certainly frustrating with some of the other organizations are bringing up some incredible talent when they are younger, when they are in their younger 20s, and being able to take advantage of some of those younger years. That just hasn't really happened a whole lot with the Dodgers. They've been able to bring up some really good players that have stuck at the big leagues. Last year we saw Bobby Miller and James Outman be able to stick.
Yeah.
But we believe that a lot more of these guys have the potential to be able to stick and be successful, very successful at the big league level if they are given their opportunities. But those opportunities are given to guys who have had established big league careers, who are there and sign either 1-year deals or something like that. It's a very interesting topic to talk about, especially philosophical wise, because for us, being able to see a lot of these guys on the minor league side, being able to interact with them and just knowing the character and how good these guys are when they are given the opportunity, we believe wholeheartedly that they can be successful because we've seen them be successful, something that perhaps a lot of other baseball fans haven't seen if they just focus more on the major league side. Certainly there's that transition from minor leagues to the big leagues. That shouldn't be understated, but with time and with acclimation, there can be growth in that.
So here's a perfect case scenario. This time last year, what was the narrative on Ryan Pepiot?
No, why don't you remind the audience about the narrative on Pepiot?
Well, all I know is all I heard about Ryan Pepiot is how he wasn't any good, right? How he can't throw strikes, how he can't do this, he can't do that because he got sporadic time at the major league level. It takes time to adjust. Okay, and by the way, neither him or Bobby Miller were slated to get any major league time this year. It was only because of injury. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But because there was injury, not because the Dodgers chose to give them opportunity, because there was injury, Ryan Pepiot got enough runway to guess what? To show Dodgers fans exactly how good he is. Now look at the narrative. Oh, Ryan Pepiot's good now, right? Okay. Well, why is the narrative different now than it was this time last year? Why is that?
Because he had an opportunity to prove himself.
Because he had an opportunity to prove himself. Okay. Why do guys like Barry Bonds struggle in the playoffs? Because it's a short sample size.
It is very short sample size.
So they're going, I can't go 0 for 3, right? You don't think that way in the regular season. You think, oh, well, it's a game of odds over a long period of time. Things will work out. I'm a great, that kind of deal. But, in the playoffs, when you go for 3, now you start pressing, right? Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a Hall of Famer. Okay. Well, how about try a rookie where hey, you're going to get 1 or 2 chances here, and if you don't knock it out of the park, then you're going back down to Oklahoma City. Go get comfortable, kid. Right? I mean, it doesn't work like that. And I think Ryan Pepiot is the absolute perfect scenario of that. Emmett Sheehan at times last year was a great scenario that people were saying, well, he can't strike anybody out. His strikeout stuff doesn't translate to the major leagues. Well, it's because he's not comfortable yet and he's not getting ahead the count like he doesn't in the minor league level because he's just trying to survive at this point. Give him the proper amount of innings. Let him settle in. You'll see the high-riding fastball. You'll see the strikeout stuff show up. I'll tell you another guy that's a perfect case scenario, Michael Grove. It took Michael Grove a long time to get comfortable at the major league level, and I think we'd all have to agree, once that they found the right role for him and once that they added that cutter to his game, Michael Grove, Austin, would you say he was pretty good?
Oh, he was very good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, I mean, if you need examples of exactly why you have to commit to these guys and not just say, hey, here's a couple games, go prove yourself. Okay, baseball is a marathon. You got to give these guys the runway that they have to show you just how good they are. Because, hey, you say, well, you don't know if it's going to translate to the major leagues. You're looking at Michael Grove right here. You know, but what you do know about these guys is you do know they throw 96 to 98. You do know how much movement is on their fastball. You know how many strikes they throw. You know how many balls they throw. And you know, based on all of that data, how often does an average 98-mile-an-hour fastball with 23 inches of vertical drop to it, how often does that pitch get hit in the major leagues? You do have all that data. So there is a way to translate that. This is just a it's an interesting situation the Dodgers are in. I wish they would fix it, okay, or go out and just fill your lineup full of 9 All-Stars and let's go win a World Series, one or the other.
Yeah, that seems to be the in-between point that they have right now. And you're absolutely right about that. When these guys are brought up and given such short, little time, such a small sample size to be able to prove themselves, they're going to be pressing. They're going to be doing for anything to try to get some sort of success. And when that doesn't happen, they get sent down to AAA, and that can be incredibly frustrating for a lot of these guys. Yeah, no. Your example with Pepio about that is a perfect example of how the narrative, especially with these younger guys, can change so drastically once they have the ability to prove themselves at the big league level. We've had a long time to look at these guys through the course of their minor league career and just tell you how good this guy is. When they get brought up to the big leagues, and especially if they struggle right away, it's very easy for a lot of people to kind of just throw them under the bus and say, this guy's no good, just get rid of him.
What guys come up to the major leagues and don't have a transition period? I mean, what guys come up to the major leagues and just automatically start dominating from day one?
It's very rare for that to happen.
I mean, who shows up to the major leagues just perfect?
Yeah, it's very, very rare for those players, and that takes an incredibly rare talent. And so a large majority of the guys either struggle out of the gate or have some sort of period where they have success, might struggle a little bit, work through a lot of adjustments. We saw that last year with James Outman. Him getting the opportunity last year could have been a little bit because of the injury with Gavin Lux, unfortunately, that he got put in a position where there's a roster spot open for him. But we saw this through the course of him last year. He started off incredibly hot. Then teams started to figure him out a little bit. But because he had a lot of runway, he was able to make those adjustments. Now he's a solid MLB outfielder. He's a very good Major League Baseball outfielder because he's been given the time and the runway to make a lot of these adjustments, make a lot of these changes. I believe with a lot of these guys, with a lot of these prospects, if they are given that opportunity, they would have a lot of success. And the unique position that the Dodgers are in right now is they have an incredible talent and they know what it takes to win the West regardless, which means that you have opportunities to give a lot of these younger guys experience through the course of the regular season, give them the proper run time that they need. If they have success, great. And then they stick around for the big leagues, and then you have a very valuable piece on your roster.
Because he's controllable and cheap.
Mm-hmm, exactly. And you need that, especially if you're looking to acquire some of the high-end free agents like a Yamamoto, like an Ohtani. And if it doesn't work out with some of these guys, you kind of learn through experience, but at least they get the opportunity to prove themselves at the big league level. And so this comes to a philosophical difference as far as what you would want to do and what is the point of all this. I don't think necessarily making all of the moves or getting all of the headlines during the offseason, even if they're just smaller headlines for 1-year deal, is necessarily ideal in all circumstances. Certainly if you're getting some of the star talent that's going to help push you over the top to win the World Series, that certainly is necessary. But giving a lot of these guys opportunities, giving these guys experience,
not giving, like I said, not just throwing them in there saying, hey, here's 3 games, which is what they did with Michael Busch.
Yes. No, they need
2
to
or 3
give
games at a time.
sustained experience with that, which also becomes a little bit difficult because you also have to take into account depth within your organization as well. There will be opportunities that come up, but when those opportunities come up, we believe that they should be sustained opportunities, meaning not just a couple of appearances, but we want to give you a large sample size. We want to give
Right.
you a chance to be comfortable, know your role, be able to not worry about, hey, if I mess up on
Yeah.
this one pitch, that's going to send me right back to Oklahoma City. I think that would be a better way to go about this
It's too results oriented.
instead of this constant plane ride back from LA to Oklahoma City.
That's got to
back and
stop.
forth.
That's got to stop. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It just
And
doesn't work.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it can be incredibly taxing and incredibly frustrating for a lot of these guys. And
it's not good for
helping
either
with them
side.
with
It's
the
not good for the
development.
player or the Dodgers.
Yeah,
It doesn't bring out the best in either one of them, is what I'm saying.
yeah. No, you're
Either
absolutely
you
right
commit
with that.
to a guy or you don't. But quit popping them in, pop them out, pop them in, pop them out. And then fans say, well, he didn't take advantage. Well, he had 7 at-bats. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you know in 7 at-bats, if you don't get 3 hits, you're getting sent back down. Nobody can survive under that type of scenario. You're trying to hit major league pitching for the very first time in your life. You're trying to get comfortable in a major league environment for the first time in your life, and you're getting 9 at-bats. And if you don't get 3 hits, you're getting sent back down. When, by the way, from the time you stepped into the doors of the Dodgers system, the only thing they've ever preached to you is process and not results. But now, if you don't come up the results in the next 9 at-bats, you're getting sent back down. It's completely opposite of what these guys are taught, and what they should be taught, because the Dodgers are just absolutely elite at developing these guys. So it frustrates me to hear comments from Dodger fans over and over and over. Well, they didn't take advantage of their opportunities. I'm going to send you back to Ryan Pepio. Okay, when you were popping him in here, popping him in there, he didn't know where his feet were going to land. He didn't know if he didn't do good in this game, he's getting sent back down, this and that. He wasn't as good. When he had runway last year where he knew he was going to get start after start after start, allowed to get comfortable, you saw the real Ryan Pepio.
Yeah,
That's my whole point, is either commit to him or trade him. Quit popping them in and out. It's not good for either one of them.
yeah. No, I'm 100% with you right there, and I think with the opportunities that they provide with a lot of these guys, they need to be sustained. They need to have a long runway and just be able to get them at least a little bit comfortable with their opportunities. So then they have a longer chance to be able to prove themselves. And the Dodgers have the flexibility in order to do that because of the talent that they already have on their roster, because they know how to win their divisions. They know how to get to the playoffs. These opportunities should be taken advantage of, and there should be innings. There should be lots of at-bats set aside towards developing a lot of these guys and seeing what you actually have at the big league level in the system.
Yeah, we're going to get some comments here. Michael, who always has wonderful comments. Casey, the system isn't really balanced with the guys they're churning out. It's all pitchers and catchers. I don't know. I mean, that's because I think that's what – I mean, all I know is Drew Avens was a AAA All-Star last year. Ryan Ward has hit 25 home runs or above. Andy Pages got hurt last year, and he was one of the big prospects. Jose Ramos is a pretty big time talent. And you look at Michael Bush is a really good player. Miguel Vargas, again, he struggled last year. I think a lot of that had to do with the hand, but I mean, Alex Friedman himself, and he is a very honest guy, will tell you him point blank that he was the best hitter that he'd seen come through here of all of them. So I would not say that. I would say that's the way the Dodgers have treated it. That's the guys that they have brought up, but that's not because that's what the system has produced. It's just the fact that they haven't given a Justin Yurchek a chance at all. They don't give a Bryson Brigman a chance. They don't, Michael Bush hasn't had a chance. They haven't given Drew Avens a chance. They have, Andy Pages has been hurt. Ryan Ward still isn't even on the 40-man roster. So, I think the players are there. It's just that the opportunity hasn't been there.
Yeah, and I think that certainly comes up, especially with the pitching side, because pitchers seem to get injured quite a bit. There are opportunities that come up through the course of the season. So you see a lot of guys come up, whether that is due to injury related or whether that's to do with roster manipulation, which is something that we've been arguing against and something that we don't like to see the Dodgers do. I think there's more opportunity to see those pitchers come up, but certainly if you paid attention to the Dodgers system on a whole, there is a ton of talent there. Whether those guys get the opportunities, they haven't necessarily gotten the opportunities at some of those other positions, especially on the position player wide, but there is a lot of talent down there.
Yeah, no doubt. And I hope none of our fans here think that I'm arguing with them at all. I'm talking to myself more than anything here, but yeah, you almost got a mercy trade Bush at this point. Yeah. Leroy, good evening. Pepe O'Shea and Miller played a big part in the Dodgers winning the division. The Dodgers don't win playoff games because Mookie, Freddie don't come through, not necessarily because of the pitching. I would also say we've had this conversation. The offense isn't dynamic enough. A guy like Jason Hayward went 0 for 7 in the playoffs, but even in the regular season, you know how many bases he stole?
How many is
that? Two. I mean, he did hit 15 home runs, but I would have to go back and see, how those impacted games. But, what to me, the way that you keep from having complete duds is you become more dynamic. And also, I think, younger guys tend to be more dynamic players. But I do think the Dodgers are developing some of those guys. I talked to one of them with Kendall George. We've seen a couple of them down. That's another reason why a guy like Drew Avens not being prioritized at all by the Dodgers is frustrating to me.
Yeah, no, I totally see that. And I think it's having that additional element, especially when you're dealing in a short sample size where your bat does not always work, when you're dealing with a postseason where you could only be a couple of games, just like we were talking about with a lot of these younger guys pressing in short opportunities. Having a little bit of dynamics in your offense just creates more opportunities for you to succeed. And just with some of the guys that the Dodgers have in their lineup, have on their roster right now, there just is limited opportunities to express their offense. When they are on, they're amazing. And we see that over the course of a large sample size. During a short sample size, when your bat might not be hot, it could get cold at the worst possible time, which it has the past couple of seasons. Not having that ability to do some of the other aspects of the games really comes back to bite you a little bit. So having a little bit of dynamics just certainly adds to the offensive profile that you have as a player.
Leroy, Will Smith got his chance and produced. It's unfortunate, but when the opportunity rises for it, if the Dodgers are a mediocre team, then they can afford to be more patient. Well, they're less than mediocre in the playoffs. I mean, they've won one game in the last 2 years is kind of my point on that. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, something needs to change.
Yeah, and that is the frustration, but that is the hope that the offseason brings right now, is the hope that something will change, which is why there's a lot of talk right now about free agents. That's why people get so invested into the trade talks, to the free agency talks, even if necessarily you think they should take a different approach and actually play their younger guys. With the offseason brings hope of future success and change to what happened from the previous season.
Yeah. Yeah, Will Smith, when he came up, I'm looking here, and he came up in 2017. Okay. Let's see. No, hold on one second. Keep talking about some of the prospects that we might see next year, Austin.
Yeah, so it depends on kind of what the Dodgers decide to do. Obviously, the first people that are going to be in line are some of those guys on the 40-man roster, some of the pitchers that we've seen. Some of them we've seen come up through the big leagues. But then you're talking about on the position player wide. you're looking at some of those guys on the 40-man roster that potentially could get the opportunity. Obviously, all of this is depending on what the Dodgers decide to do in the trade market. If they're looking to add talent to this roster, as we discussed last show, it is very likely that they are going to have to trade guys from the 40-man roster, some of the prospects, notable prospects that they have, to another organization to just in order to clear up space, potentially to get a starting pitcher back. And so it depends on who's available for that.
Will Smith went 7 for his first 26, and then in his first year in the major leagues, this is an example. You want to know what he hit in September?
What was that?
$175. That is in 57 at bats. So if that was his window, 57 at bats, which is about what Michael Busch got last year, what are Dodger fans thinking about Will Smith?
They would, given what they saw with that, they would think he's no good.
And I'm glad that the Dodgers continued to give Will Smith opportunities.
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
because again, in September, he hit $175. Okay. So, I mean, it's just to kind of go to show that, if you take, okay, so you want to know what he started out 2020 with in July? So he hit $175 in September. You want it the first month of 2020 in July. You know what he hit?
What did he hit?
077. Okay. And then after that, so basically he had 13, he had 48 at bats. So he was 10 for 48 to start out 2020. So at that point, remember this, 10 for 48, Austin. So 10 for 48, and then I'm going to add this up. All right, so 20 for 98. He was 20 for 110. So in his 110 bats to end his first season in the major leagues and to start his second season, he went 20 for 110. That's Will Smith. Right? Yeah. So, I mean, if you take that window, you think, well, Will Smith isn't any good. That's kind of my point. But because you've seen a full sample size of Will Smith, now we know how good he is.
Yeah. And that is certainly the argument that we're trying to display for a lot of these younger guys. We want to see them actually get opportunities and actually get run time, because we believe that if you get the full picture of who they are, there will be a realization that these guys are incredibly talented, and they'll be able to showcase that.
This show went a different direction than I thought it would.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
I guess I'm getting a whole bunch of stuff off my chest tonight.
Yeah.
But hey, but we're all passionate, right? That's what makes it great to be fans, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And to have passion towards it. So, hey, is there anywhere else you wanted to go with this, Austin?
Not necessarily. I don't know if there's any other comments that we should look at tonight.
Yeah, let's get to it. Can you read some of them?
I can look. I don't know where exactly you left off with a lot of the comments and stuff, so I will start to take a look at some of them and see if I can see anything right now. So,
okay, so I'm going to start with Craig. Ohtani has said he wants to win. He won't win with the Angels, Dodgers, or in the playoffs every year. Yeah, I would agree. I would think the Dodgers are probably leading for Ohtani. I would be surprised if him and Yamamoto don't end up as a Dodger. Michael says, I think they should basically give 3 lower-rung relievers on the roster in a trade for Tyler O'Neill to free up 2 extra roster spots. Yep. Okay, yeah. And if you have any questions, again, hey, ask Mike. He knows all about the international prospects. Mike, I mean, he's researched them and knows them up and down. The workload Yamamoto had during the NPB championship has me kind of spooked. I'm kind of on that same wavelength there. The workload is being used to kind of, explain why he's so valuable, because he's durable. But you could also look at that as, well, maybe his workload means that he's going to start wearing down. Does that bother you at all, Austin? And Mike, too. Mike can leave a comment there.
Yeah. No, that'd be a good question for him. It might worry you a little bit. I think the durability aspect of it is something that definitely is of value and something you want to see. I think that just comes from a roster, just from the training aspect for the Dodgers. Once they would acquire him, just doing their best to try to keep him as healthy and as ready to go as possible. But with that, I think you would rather have a guy with a clean bill of health over a guy who has some potential issues that you could see popping up. So with that, with any of these pitchers, there is going to be some injury risk. So with that, because he hasn't had any sort of injuries in the past, I would prefer that over a guy who might have past injuries, even though I still want to give those guys opportunities as well. Either way, you're going to be running into the risk of potential injuries in the future.
What's going on with Gantz on elbow surgery? I don't think he's going to be back next year. Are you on that same page, Austin?
I'm on that same page, yeah. That's my assumption.
So the Dodgers still, if they don't re-sign Kershaw, or even if he doesn't get back till whenever you said about halfway through the year, that leaves them without a lefty starter. Does that bother you?
That bothers me a little bit. I think that is something that the Dodgers could potentially overcome, but that certainly is a weakness that they would have on their pitching wise. So that does concern me a little bit.
That would put Imanaga, I believe, and Blake Snell, and those type of guys, Jordan Montgomery. That would make their case. I agree that's not working. You cannot tell me that bringing in some older veterans that get in the way of younger players are more productive. I'm going to say it again. I want the Dodgers to go out and get every elite prospect they possibly, or every elite player they can. I want them to get Shohei Ohtani. I want them to get Yamamoto. I want them to get them, all of them, right? Okay, or don't, and then player pro. I just don't, the middle ground is where. Are you following what I'm saying, Austin?
Absolutely.
I went a long ways to say it's just the middle ground that's frustrating me, and then the age of the prospects that bugs me. They need to be 22 or 23 when they're in this age, and they're in this position, not 25. You're really just handcuffing their career if you're not giving them real opportunities, and they're still 26, 27 years old and still haven't had a chance to prove themselves. You're just really hamstringing them. That's my whole. So those are my two biggest ones. Is that just get rid of the middle ground, use your prospect, go get elite guys like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and then beyond that, use your system, right? So maybe 5-year starters or elite veterans. The rest of your 4, you're surrounding those elite veterans with 4 rookies or 4 prospects that you've grown up in your system. That's kind of what I'm saying right there. But get rid of the middle guys, the average, just the veterans that aren't any better than the prospects to begin with. That's all I'm saying there. And then also, I think the Dodgers need to get their prospects in a position to where they have more major league experience by the time they get to the ages that they're at right now. That's what I'm saying right now. Todd L., I hope there's another one, Johnny DeLuca. So if you're to ask Dodgers fans right now, do they need another outfielder? They would say yes. Well, you know who that squeezes out?
Johnny DeLuca.
Absolutely. Why? Would be my question. Why would the Dodgers not want to give Johnny DeLuca a full opportunity to be the dynamic player he has the potential to be? That would be my question. You know how old he is?
He is
25.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't get the opportunity this year, then he's 26. I mean, are you following what I'm saying? So
exactly. And next year there would be calls for the Dodgers to bring in other outfielders as well. So then he doesn't get an opportunity then as well. That's
my whole point. So right now, either send Johnny DeLuca and go watch him be good and steal 30 bases with somebody else and hit 20 home runs, 25 home runs. Go watch him do that with somebody else, or put him in left field and give him the runway that he needs to prove that he can be dynamic at the major league level. One or the other. What I don't want to see happen is that he pops in, he pops out, he gets 9 at-bats here, 7 at-bats there. That happens for the next 2 years. Now he's 27 years old and has basically no major league experience. That's what I don't want to see happen to him. Are you following what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, any Cuban or Dominican pitching prospects? That would be a good question for our man Mike. Casey, a lot of these guys haven't put up those video game numbers in the minors that make people take notice of them. They have on the TrackMan, they have on the metric side of things. And a lot of times, too, you got to understand, here's what Dodgers fans really don't understand, like with a guy like Gavin Stone. This is a heavy development system. These guys aren't pitching to results. They're always trying to work on something. They're always trying to make an adjustment here. They're adding a grip here. They're adding a pitch there. And a lot of times when you're doing that against professional hitters, it comes at the cost of results. And we saw that with Gavin Stone this year when he was trying to learn new locations with his fastball and learn the cutter. Well, yeah, when you're trying to learn new things against professional hitters in the PCL, it's not always going to look pretty, right? So the stats, you just can't look at stats from the minor league guys. You have to look at the process and what they actually did to get to that. You see that too, Austin.
Yeah, no, you certainly, when you're looking at the numbers from the minor league side, you certainly have to take that with an understanding that they are working on stuff through the course of this process. So looking at a guy who maybe might not be having complete success, they might legit be struggling with some stuff. And so there's some value with that. But it's also important to understand that there is a process that goes along with the development in the minor leagues, that they are continually working on their craft. And the stats don't always tell the full story, especially at the minor league side, and especially because we don't always have access to a lot of the TrackMan data. We don't have access to a lot of the more advanced stuff that kind of help show the bigger picture with that. So that makes it incredibly tough to look at. But then I would also point to some of the guys who do put up big time numbers from last year. We saw that with Michael Busch.
And then those guys get overlooked. A guy like Austin Gauthier, nobody.
Well, I was just about to bring him up too. And yeah, all of these guys who actually put up great numbers. You talk about Gauthier, who had a 150 WRC plus through his numbers in high A and double A as well, and yet he doesn't receive any sort of coverage at all. There's a lot of guys in the system who are incredibly talented, who either put up some numbers or are continuing to work on the craft, continuing to work on the process. Even the guys who are putting up the numbers are continuing to work on the process and stuff too. You have to take a deep dive and actually get the opportunity to watch these guys to get a full understanding of the pitcher. The box score does not tell the full picture when you're looking at the minor leagues. You actually have to watch these guys day in and day out to get a picture of how they're doing, which is the way the Dodgers go about evaluating these guys in the system.
I can honestly tell you this, the first 10 games I watched Michael Busch, this is kind of a hot take. My first 10 games, I was like, okay. I mean, literally, that's what and then after the first 30 games I watched, I was, oh, damn, yeah, okay, I see it now. I mean, seriously, after my first 10 games, I was honestly like, So
yeah, and that's exactly what you told me with a guy like a Justin Robleski from this past season. Early in the season,
you and I talked, and I told you how good this guy is. You're like, okay.
Yeah,
and
it was
like,
one of those
Austin,
things where early in the
comfortable.
season, the results weren't there, but as the season went along, as you saw the stuff continue to grow, he was able to showcase the pitcher that he actually was. And so being able to take a step back, being able to watch these guys day in and day out, we have a lot of Dodgers fans have the opportunity to do that at the big league level. We have an opportunity to look at these guys at the minor league level and just see how talented they are. And we want to make sure that people are understanding of that and understanding that there is a different answer that the Dodgers could have to a lot of these questions as well.
There's my man Robo right there. I think he topped out at 98 this year.
Yeah.
He was, and hey, this dude is good. And there's guys like this up and down the system, but just kind of for him. So he went to Clemson right out, and then he got hit by a car. So then he was not healthy there. Then he went JUCO. Then he broke his jaw and couldn't eat, and he lost like 25 pounds, right? So he lost a whole bunch of velo. Then he came back too soon, and because he came back too soon, then he had Tommy John surgery his junior year at Oklahoma State, and then he didn't get to pitch in 2022. And so so here you are, a guy that I've seen the TrackMan data at Oklahoma State, and it's like, wow. Okay, this dude is, and I told you that at the beginning of this year, right? Okay, this, and then all of a sudden, as this guy, so nobody knows about him because he's been injured, and then he starts, getting runway, and he starts getting more and more performances, and then the next thing you know, he's literally one of the best pitchers in all the minor leagues. You want to know another guy like that? Jack Dreyer. Jack Dreyer, the Maytag. Hey, the Maytag so in 2019, he had injuries at Iowa. He had the 2020. He actually had 2 injuries at Iowa. He had an injury in 2019, and then 2020 canceled the season, and then 2021 he got injured. So he had a couple of starts as a freshman, a true freshman in 2019, then didn't get to pitch again until he was in pro ball. That's Jack Dreyer, and that was this year. So this really was the first year that Jack Dreyer had gotten any kind of mound time at all that was substantial at all since he was a true freshman at Iowa. And I think you would agree, Austin, as you saw him go on and on and on, you saw the confidence grow, right?
Oh, as the season went along, he got more and more confident. He stayed more and more in the zone, and he was just able to excel, became one of, if not the most dependable, reliable pitchers for the Great Lakes Loons. They relied on him in a one-run game to close out the series against Fort Wayne. He became so incredibly confident, so incredibly talented, and just got so accustomed to the level because he had the run time. And man, if you just take a look at a short sample size with a lot of these guys, you don't get the full picture of who they are, because man, if you see the full sample size what they're able to do, get a full season of them being able to grow and develop, they are really good. And both of these guys, incredible examples. You can hear more about their stories. I know that you did some interviews with both of them fairly recently, within the past month or so, available on the YouTube page for Dodgers Daily. More incredible stories, like the story I just watched the video today that you did with 101 Express.
The 101 Express.
Yes, and that was
Isn't he cool?
That was really good. And he's another example of one of those guys who has been grinding, did work in independent ball. And when he got the opportunity with the Dodgers, because they saw some talent in him, man, what I saw in Great Lakes this past season, just electric stuff. That is something that we want to see for a lot of these guys. We want to see them provide the opportunity, because we've seen when they are given opportunities, they've succeeded. When they are given opportunities, they're able to prove themselves. We want them to be able to do this at the highest level, whether that is with the Dodgers or whether that is with another organization. But if it's going to be with another organization, we'd rather them go there when they have more time to be able to succeed, when they have more time for some runway at the big league level, and when they're a little bit younger, so that they can have longer careers. I think that expresses the frustrations that you've showed and expressed in this show.
Too passionately, probably. I apologize for my rant. But Clayton Beater, perfect example. Jordan Leisure, perfect example. Justin Hageman, Nick Robertson. Let these guys go. Nick Robertson showed it in his last 3 or 4 games that he was just absolutely dynamite. And I think Jordan Leisure is going to turn some heads. Here's another one. Jose Hernandez, right?
Yeah.
Ryan Noda. Ryan Noda was never going to get playing time with the Dodgers. I believe he led all of the major leagues, or at least the National League or American League, in walks. And hey, there's more to come from him. And I don't, that I've said that over and over and over about him. Okay, so let's get into some more comments. Michael, who is just awesome. I love reading his comments. The system isn't really balanced. We've already read that one. There was one up here. One full World Series championship since 1965. Losses in 66, 74, 77, 78, 2017, and 2018. Okay, Damanos said I saw a comment on, I think, Reddit after the NLDS that was like, can't wait for the Dodgers to win 115 games before losing to the 78-win Rockies in the NLDS. Yeah, the 2017 team got jacked. The system isn't really balanced. Yeah, okay. So, hey, Austin, why don't you go ahead and read some of these comments, and we'll go from there. I'm going to play some
Yeah,
more.
yeah, yeah.
Jake
I'll get
Pilarski.
into some of the more recent comments right now. So, with these, so there was a comment right here specifically addressing our desire to get opportunities to some of these younger guys. So, if you had to make room on the major league roster for these younger guys, do you try to do everything you can to move guys like Chris Taylor currently on the roster? So, in order to provide opportunities for some of the younger guys, do you perhaps move some of the guys perhaps on the roster that are established big leaguers like a Chris Taylor? And that certainly becomes a very interesting question for the Dodgers to address, especially because they invested pretty heavily in a guy like a Chris Taylor. Obviously, Dodgers have the financial resources, but he is going to be paid $13 million over the course of the next 2 seasons. So they do have a financial incentive to go ahead and keep a guy like a Chris Taylor. So at least from what I believe the Dodgers would do, I don't believe that they are going to move on from a guy like a Chris Taylor. I would certainly, if given the choice between a Chris Taylor and some of these younger guys, especially if you have the decisions or don't have to worry about the roster spot or the financial resources, I'd prefer to give it to a lot of these younger guys because I see more future in them. But I don't think necessarily that Chris Taylor is a bad player, necessarily doesn't have a role on the Dodgers moving forward. I think, and I almost am certain that he's going to continue to have opportunities and roles. But with that being said, I still want to see a lot of these younger guys get opportunities.
Casey, they also draft these high upside guys that are very injury prone, that delay their development. Yeah, there's been some of that. Landon Knack's been injured. Nick Frasso has been a guy that has been like that. Ryan Pepio has not been as much. He dealt with some injury last year, but that wasn't because he was injury prone. But yes, they are not. The Dodgers are not afraid to go out and get guys that, like Michael Grove. Most of them actually have already had their Tommy John. So that's a good point to make there. Let's see.
We have a comment. Dodgers need their best minor league manager to take over for Dave Roberts. Roberts won't give the rookies a chance. And then Damino said Daniel Nava 2025.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know exactly where you're at here on the comments. I had to go take care of something here, so I'm going to let you continue on with them.
Yeah. I'm just kind of picking and feeding through some of this. We have also another comment. I live in Fort Wayne, Todd says, so I get a chance to see a lot of these guys. I go to a lot of games in Fort Wayne. I believe Great Lakes Loons are going there early April. So if you see me there at the game, feel free to say hi. Let's see. Hunter, there's another recent comment from Craig. Hunter has to be given a chance to be backup catcher.
Yeah. And see, I want to reiterate, I'm not saying that the Dodgers should bring up these guys and make their whole team full of these guys and make their full roster full of rookies. That is not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is one or the other. What I don't want is these guys stuck in AAA till they're 30, right? Which is kind of 27 or whatever it may be. So right now, all I'm asking is trade them all for Corbin Burns or Tyler Glasnow now or Randy Arozarena. Trade them all to organizations that will use them. If you don't plan on making Johnny DeLuca your everyday left fielder next year, trade him, please. He's 25 years old. If you don't have any plans on putting River Ryan on the 40-man just because he's not Rule 5 eligible, although he's 25 years old, trade him to somebody who will play him before he's 27 years old. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the Dodgers should actually use all these guys in and make them their rotation and make them their lineup. I'm just saying that it needs to be one or the other. Okay, so we're coming down to the wire of this. We've gone a little bit over. I think that's because I went on for about an hour about the same thing, so I apologize for that. But I tend to do that from time to time, don't I?
Oh yeah, no, it's weird in the position kind of where we are right now, because I think with a lot of people they think, oh, an hour and a half show, you must not have enough topics and stuff, or not know how to fill in a whole show. And I experienced this actually when I started the teaching assistant that I had to teach an hour and 40-minute class. Really, it was an hour, and it was the question of how am I going to fill that time. It's funny how time flies when you're talking about, and especially with stuff that you're passionate about, and especially stuff like baseball and stuff. It's very easy, and time flies by, and to the point where we're an hour and 40 minutes into the show, and it feels like we've been talking for maybe 20.
Yeah, and the crowds continued to increase and held on. So obviously, we're not throwing a lot of people away. So hey, if I disagreed with anybody in the lobby tonight, and I got kind of fired up, please forgive me for that. I tend to do that. It's because I'm passionate about baseball. I'm passionate about the Dodgers. And Austin, you know this about both of us. I am even more passionate about these guys' careers. This is these guys' careers. They have wives, they have kids, and I don't think people understand the high stakes between, okay, I'm going to be a meddling AAA guy that's making, $50,000 a year versus I get a chance somewhere else and I become a major leaguer. Now I'm making $750,000 at a minimum. It's life-changing for these guys. And so that's where I get the most passionate, is when I feel like those opportunities are being taken away from those guys to the point to where they're timing out and they're not going to get those opportunities. That's where I get fired up. That's where my really fired upness tonight came from. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and especially because you know that if they are given the opportunity, they could succeed, or they could have a chance to make not just it's generational changing type of money, just being able to get an opportunity at the big league level, especially because we know that they have the talent to do so. And we get the opportunity to interact with a lot of these guys as well, get to know them. And we want the best for these guys. We want them to do the game that they love, that they've dreamed about reaching to the big league level for so long. And a lot of these guys are so close to reaching that goal, reaching that dream. We want to see them be able to go over the edge, because not only would that be awesome for us and awesome for them, we believe that they have the talent to succeed if given enough run time at the big league level.
For example, my best friend in the world got caught in AAA. You know what he's doing right now? He's 70 years old and he's substitute teaching. Right? Versus if he had went in the right organization and got that chance at the major league level, because he didn't, because Ted Simmons was so good with the Cardinals and he never got hurt, right? So Eddie never got his chance. And because Eddie never got his chance at the major league level, now he's substitute teaching at the age of 70. Versus if he would have got that chance, I promise you, he'd be doing something else right now. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, but anyways, okay, my rant is over. This show is over. I've had a hell of a lot of fun. I don't know if y'all have, but I feel better. I've had fun. And Oklahoma State, if you didn't know this, they play Texas tomorrow morning. I really hope the Longhorns don't kick our ass, which is what everybody thinks is going to happen. It's tough.
You got a score prediction for that?
No.
Or do we have to go to? Okay, you got to go over to Oklahoma State Daily to figure out the score prediction.
Who do you think's going to win, Austin?
Well, this is funny because I've been asked one other time about a score prediction. It was the last time that we met and talked about Oklahoma State football. It was between Oklahoma State and OU, and I was very confident in saying that OU was going to win. So,
and I hung up on your ass
for your sake. For your sake, and because my predictions with Oklahoma State
I'm going to hang up on your ass again.
Granted, small sample size. It is a very small sample size. But we're going to run with that sample size, and this is for my family out in Austin, Texas. This is for Tina. This is for Sean. This is for Kayla and all the kids. Go Longhorns.
Oh, my God. You got to be kidding me.